trustees, community advisors, and staff. Susan brings over 30 years of experience to public, private, and nonprofit sectors in the organization's community development efforts. Prior to joining the Arras Foundation, Susan served South Carolina children and families as charter trustee and state director at South Carolina First Steps to School Readiness, the state's early childhood agency. Jackie Harris is a lifelong resident of Lancaster and has been employed with the Lancaster Children's Home for 30 years. She serves on a number of boards within the Lancaster community. In addition, she represents Lancaster City District 3 and serves as Mayor Pro Tem on the Lancaster City Council. So with that, let's go to Lucero Mesa and kick off our September forum.
Thank you, Alan. Good morning. My name is Lucero Mesa, and I am pleased to welcome all of you, and in particular our speakers, Susan DeVenny, who graciously agreed to have a conversation with us and to share her experience with the education system in South Carolina, and Jackie Harris, who is a lifelong resident of Lancaster and have worked with the Lancaster Children's Home for 30 years. She serves on a number of boards within the Lancaster community. In addition, she represents Lancaster City District 3 and serves as Mayor Pro Tem of the Lancaster City Council. Thank you both for your participation. Our monthly meetings are a continuation of our commitment to provide a platform for discussion and to inform South Carolina voters about issues and how political decisions affect our daily lives. Children's well-being, including health and nutrition, are crucial to their physical and mental development. Well-nourished children will have much better chances to succeed in school and in their future life. And before we start the conversation with our guest, we are going to hear from our amazing organizer, Hal Ginsberg, with our Revolution National. Welcome, Hal.
All right, thank you so much, Lucero, and I do apologize for some of the tech issues that I'm causing. I am sorry about that. Lucero just made all these nice remarks about me, and I'm struggling here to get the tech to look right, so I feel kind of embarrassed there. I didn't even have my video up. Let's see if we can get it to work. There we go. We'll get this show going. And again, folks, I do apologize, but I love working with the South Carolina folks. And I was just even talking to Jackie Harris, one of our great guests, about how polite folks are down south. And it really is a nice change from the Northeast, from our chilly Northeast. So what an honor for me to work with these great folks in the Palmetto State. So I just want to be very, very quick and get to the meat of the call when we introduce our host, Keith Gray. But what we're doing in our revolution nationally, our big focus right now is that dirty deal. This is where Joe Manchin worked out with Chuck Schumer in the Senate, making it much easier for the oil, gas, and coal industries to continue to befoul our planet. And we're doing everything we can to stop it. If you want to help fight the dirty deal, ourrevolution.com/dirty-deal. You can see the link right there. I'll be in Washington on Tuesday to fight that dirty deal. And we're also going all in for John Fetterman and Mandela Barnes in Wisconsin. If you want to help us keep the Senate in Democratic hands, maybe even move it a little bit to the left, wouldn't that be wonderful, with progressive populist John Fetterman, ourrev.us/phone bank. You can join us, ourrev.us/phone bank. And finally, to help us keep building the movement around the country and, of course, in South Carolina, ourrev.us/scmem, ourrev.us/scmem. These calls do cost some money. We do all of our organizing, take some resources. So anything you can chip in to help would be greatly, greatly appreciated. ourrev.us/scmem. And with that, let me turn the call right over to our host and candidate in South Carolina's 45th House District, Keith Gray. Good morning, Keith.
Good morning, Hal. and welcome to this edition of our educational series. My name is Keith Gray Sr. As Hal mentioned, a candidate here from Lancaster County, and we are very honored to have as our guests Susan DeVenny and Jackie Harris. Originally from Newtown, Connecticut, Susan holds degrees from Furman University and the University of Georgia. Susan leads the Arras Foundation together with trustees, community advisors, and staff, bringing over 30 years of experience in public, private, and nonprofit sectors to the organization's community development efforts. Prior to joining the Arras Foundation, she served for the state SC First Steps to School Readiness. Susan, could you tell us about some of your other civic engagements and activities?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. So great to be with you. Always happy to join in with people who are working very hard to advance the causes of children and families and communities across the country. My husband and I partnered up there with Jackie Harris, my good friend, are delighted to be residents of Lancaster, South Carolina, though I grew up in New England, Hal, the chilly Northeast, as you mentioned. Since being here in South Carolina, most of my work is focused on well-being of families. And I think civic involvement comes along with that. We believe a healthy society and a healthy community really depends upon people being engaged and supportive of the work of community. We are proud to be active in the public education sector. And we really believe those of us that do this type of work in South Carolina, as Sarah mentioned, that all of what our future depends on really emanates from the health and wellness of our children. So proud to work with Jackie on these types of issues, both locally, regionally, across the state and nation. Happy to be with you.
Thank you very much for having joined us, taking time out of your busy schedule. Yeah, and then Jackie, welcome this morning. Jackie Harris is a lifelong resident, as stated, of Lancaster, and she's been with the Lancaster Children's Home. She serves on a number of boards, and I am honored that she is my city council representative. So, Jackie, would you tell us a bit about your background and service to the youth in our community?
Yes, Keith. Good morning. I am Jackie Harris. Keith asked me to bring a bio. He said it was supposed to be short, and if I had known that, Keith, I'd have did a long one like Susan did. But you said it had to be short. But yes, I am Jackie Harris again, and I am a lifelong resident of Lancaster, South Carolina. Love my city, love my county. I have been working with Lancaster Children's Home for 30 years. The awkwardness in that is that as a young girl, I was raised in foster care, and I ended up living at Lancaster Children's Home for 2 years. So I have made a full circle back to Lancaster Children's Home, and as I work to bring about a healthy mindset, improve educational accessibility to residents there. I also serve on our First Steps board. Me and Susan are currently working on a big project that we're bringing early childhood education to a community that has no child care system within the community setting. So we are very excited about that in our Kershaw area, that we're looking in November to open up that early childhood center down there. And we continue to work within our community to improve the educational process, test scores, health, just growth and resilience for the young people within our county.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I appreciate your service to our community, both of you. Okay, let's get into some of these questions that we have. Susan, please tell us some about the mission of the Arras Foundation. What programs for health and wellness does the Arras Foundation support?
Sure, happy to do that. The Arras Foundation is a local foundation focused every day on health and wellness. And by that, we mean very broadly what makes a community thrive, or what are the ways that we can bring the community together to ensure that we have healthy conditions for all. So we look at it from early childhood through healthy education systems, healthy economic development initiatives and ecosystems, and all the way to bringing about fresh spaces and green spaces for all to be together, joining together to work on civic opportunities. So the Arras Foundation for 27 years has been focused on bringing together partners who do this work. Like Jackie said, one of our current projects is so exciting, really trying to eradicate barriers to thriving conditions for families. One of those being the early childhood space. And in the southern part of Lancaster County, we noticed that there isn't any childcare. So we get busy working together, trying to leverage resources, bring resources and community attention to issues, either asset-based that we can celebrate and grow and connect, or really in a barrier way. You know, how do we reduce barriers to all people having access to healthcare, to strong education, to jobs, to mobility, economic mobility. So Arras Foundation, every day, our staff and board do that through grant making, convening, things like you're doing here, bringing people together to be educated and really informed about processes that they can change themselves, or ways that we can join together with partners to make our community even stronger. So that's really what we do every day. And we're always proud to focus on the needs of the entire county and the eastern part of Chester County. Occasionally, Keith, our work takes us into the policy level, where we look at state and national policies and making certain that they are also as strong as they can be in order for families to thrive. So that's just a little bit about what we do each day.
Well, it's quite a broad area that you cover, and that's so you actually do work with quite a few different agencies and nonprofits.
That's right. Our work is really centered on, as a nonprofit ourselves, lifting up the nonprofit sector. And we know in doing that people in the community can pay attention to that really important work that's done out of agencies who are focused on community-facing frontline work. We also know that it takes all sectors working together. So we are not shy about working with the government sector, private sector, the healthcare sector. And to do that, I think we always hope to have people or children at the center of the table. So the multi-sector work and our multi-sector approach is really important to us. And we believe that makes change more sustainable. Positive change.
Most definitely.
Thank you very much. Jackie, please tell us some about the mission of the Lancaster Children's Home. What programs for health and wellness does the Children's Home support?
Well, you know, due to the fact, Keith, that all our children come from a wide range of areas, from DSS placement to Department of Juvenile Justice placements, the community collaborations that we have within our community help grow our children, from counseling services here in Lancaster to Catawba mental health services that we provide for our children. Our motto is raising the hopes for tomorrow. When you're working with young people that have been neglected, abused, or lack that parenting that is needed to become that well-rounded individual. I oftentimes work with children who are 17 years old and they're still in the 9th grade. So those community collaborations with our school district to bring in tutors to help young people get up to the levels in which they need to be in order to be successful within the high schools. I firmly believe that not only do young people need to have mental wellness, they also need to have physical wellness in order to strive and goal setting is very important in our program in order to bring about change. So a child is with us from 1 day to 8 years. I think the longest one since I've been there, I worked with for 8 years. And came in, this young lady was very low, skills were very low, and to see her thrive as an adult in college now is very important to me, realizing that all young people, you're not able to make those drastic changes in, but you can implement those healthy relationships. Even now, I have people, young kids that I worked with 25 years ago, contacting me, wanting me to meet their, they say my grandchildren, so I probably got 50 grandchildren now. So I think that's very, very important, that the impact that you make on a young person's life will be lifelong with them. Those changes, those relationships buildings are so important with the kids that we work with out at the children's home.
That's pretty great. We have an issue that South Carolina's 81 public school districts expend funds from 15 different funding streams between state and local sources. The taxpayer equity has also suffered under the current formula by narrowing the tax property base through exemptions. Fewer taxpayers are shouldering the burden. This is especially punished poorer school districts, which already operate at a disadvantage when it comes from funding. With a smaller base from which to pull property tax revenue, cash-strapped districts are forced instead to raise levies. Now, what are both of you, this question is posed to both of you, what are your thoughts and/or experiences with SC First Steps concerning inequity in the funding of pre-K per child from comparing of affluent districts to impoverished districts, or we could speak on the county level as far as that goes, and how could it be addressed? Either one, jump in.
Well, I think you see that now, Keith, in Lancaster County, when we look at the Kershaw Center coming into play, that there are differentials in the level of services that are provided for our children in regards to early education. When we look at that, you know, oftentimes within government, we have to give in order to get, and sometimes we oftentimes are individuals that are impoverished communities come out on the short end of the stick. That's when you get into those community collaborations with organizations like the Arras Foundation, Springs Clothes Foundations that you work towards bringing, and our communities. We have to forget we can do nothing without the people in our community allowing us to take ownership of what is in our community and the children that are coming through our school system from pre-K all the way through graduation. And the funds that are there are oftentimes are based on population economics that oftentimes leave us in a stagnant situation when it comes to individuals in my community. I represent a low impoverished district where all of the kids in my district either go to a Title I school, that we are just getting pre-K, the 4-year-old programs within the school, and we have seen those numbers increase over the past year. And I think if Susan can attest to this, I think that's the engagement of First Steps within our community that have increased the numbers of children that are currently enrolled. But you're right, our focus needs to be more of equity across the line, but it's not.
Yeah, I think, Keith, what a huge question, first of all. Thank you. And Jackie's exactly right. You know, we often say we live in a post-textile rural community, and as she's mentioning, we have a very low resource base, and yet surprisingly, because of the way our county is shaped, we do have some high wealth areas. And so if you think about preschool funding, which you're asking about here, when we implemented the dual delivery system in South Carolina in response to the education equity lawsuit in 2006, and I'm very proud of South Carolina for this, we advanced quickly in one legislative session, expanded 4K. We'd always had the opportunity since 1984 through the penny sales tax of Governor Riley. We had that opportunity, but as Jackie said, there's not enough. There's not enough really preschool opportunities, or there weren't, at least. Public school did not have enough places to place our very young children. So when we opened up the door to allow strong quality community-based settings to participate, such as the Kershaw program that Jackie's mentioning, we're delighted that First Steps can be the program manager there. But it took the town of Kershaw donating a building, and it took a lot of funders and a lot of individuals who rallied around the cause of kids. And because the poverty statistics in Lancaster County show in an aggregate way differently, we were among the latest counties. I think it was maybe Greenville, Lancaster, surprisingly, and Beaufort County. We were the last ones to get preschool funding because, according to the legislature and the statistics that they use, which are valid, we're a wealthy community. So you kind of look at that and you say, what? You got to be kidding me. So, to the question of tax, education taxation, and how do we get the revenues to be righted? We've done I think people make the best decisions they can at the time they make them. And our elected leaders have to be looking at that issue. They always are looking at that issue. We've got to be certain that all of these school districts have the funds that they need to support kids, particularly coming out of the pandemic. We have some really large challenges, and we're really, I think we're in a really deep place of concern when you look at the pipeline for teachers, preschool through high school. So I love that the questions are about education today. I think it's where we all need to be focused, and really proud that South Carolina's dual delivery preschool system is making a difference. As Jackie said, we have to all rally together. Community collaboration is the way to go here.
And being a product of early childhood education, I'm in my office at my church, and I actually went to Head Start here on these grounds. So, being that product, those types of educational advancements to help me to be where I am today, coming out of foster care and being a part of early Head Start, it helped shape and mold me to go in and be prepared for first grade, where I went down the street from my church here in Lancaster. So you're actually talking to someone that was a part of Head Start, the Head Start program, before they got universal pre-K.
And Jackie, I love that thank you, first of all, for showcasing your personal experience. I think anyone who knows Jackie in this community and beyond knows she's a star, and she'll help anybody at any moment. And telling your personal story just reminds us all today to be reminded of, there are federal programs for young children, there are state level programs, there are community-based programs, there are faith-based programs. And if all of us can just be very focused on the data around what helps a child succeed, as Jackie said, it's that early intervention, it's the early love and connection that children feel from their families, their traditional family, their foster care family. The children's home is a great place to feel love and feel connected. That is so important for our current and future success. And I have to say, I'm hopeful. We certainly feel it in Lancaster. We have a really great community camaraderie. There's a lot of divisiveness out there, but I feel strongly that there's a lot of hope. And if we can all be very focused on the data about what makes children, the conditions for children, what are the soil conditions really that make success for young kids, because that produces look at Jackie, mayor pro tem and serving on 6 to 8 boards and leading the community. It's early childhood experiences of love and nurture and connection and quality education that make a difference in really every way. So if there were one thing we could focus on as a country, you're hearing passion here, but really it's early childhood and the causes of kids and families.
Yes.
So
Well,
Keith, I don't know if that gives you what you want, but that's where we stand.
Okay. Well, I think that covers a lot of the question, a lot of the ground. And that actually leads into the next question, which is, do you believe that universal pre-K, 0 to K, would improve children's life experiences and, of course, hopefully graduation outcomes? And in what specific ways? I mean, emotional, educational, health-wise.
Well, I'm going to start and then, Jackie, go ahead.
Go ahead. You go ahead, Susan. I started last time.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, I think you're going to get a lot of retweet in this answer. It honestly, the success of children begins in the prenatal term. So let's not leave out the importance of healthcare and healthcare for women, which is a really important issue. I think we all need to be paying attention to right now, and always should be paying attention to. But strong care for our pregnant women leads to important birth outcomes, and that's that very first building block of a healthy, neural base for child development. Then what you want to attend to is the environment the child is raised in, and we lean toward nurture environments and environments where positive energies are surrounding young children, lots of language, really the positive, warm attachment that a young child feels from 0 to 3 sets their trajectory for a lifetime. It's not a Pollyanna expression, it's neuroscience. So I think you're going to hear probably Jackie talk about her own personal experience some as well. If we don't have that, we are fighting to catch up, right? So if you have, by the age of 3, a child who is raised in an environment or lives in an environment that is the reverse of what I've described, where there may be some toxic conditions, some abuse, some negative language, some fragile, vulnerable conditions. As we know, low resource conditions can bring about vulnerable conditions for families. So a child is experiencing that. Just living in that environment causes a chemical to spill in the brain and can inhibit brain growth. And this sounds like a lot of geeky stuff, but it's true. So you're then in a catch-up mode for young kids. So the question about universal preschool, that's really late in the game. Honestly, I think most individuals think about school as being K-12, K-12. Well, really success in K-12 is determined in those first 5 years of life. So if we don't attend to strong programming and supportive families and strong conditions for young children in all settings before they're 5, we're playing catch up. And then our partners in the Lancaster Public Schools and across the state here they're working with children who haven't maybe had the same sort of opportunities ahead of kindergarten. So yes, I think preschool is part of the solution. I absolutely believe in those strong federal programs, Early Head Start and Head Start, and truly all kinds of community-based settings are doing great work too. So part of what First Steps does, which we're so proud of, Jackie and I being in that organization for years, is we bring all those communities partners together and we work together to make sure that programming, wherever there are gaps, we're filling them. We're working on something I can't talk about yet, but to fill some gaps where public schools can't take all the kids. So how do we get churches and the housing authority to help us out there? In addition to the Kershaw Project, we got some great stuff on the deck for Lancaster kids. But Jackie, I know, has a lot of experience here, and I'd love to hear her answers as well.
I think it's so important that I also teach parenting down at a school in our community, and I see that young people parents are becoming parents earlier than when I was growing up, and not being prepared, which brings about that toxic situation as preparing pre-K, early childhood, like Susan said, from that 0 to 3, and then that 4 in that preparation. Sometimes children that we work with, they only get those experiences of, I love it when I hear about kindergarten teachers going to the home, doing home visits, working with the child in the home, teaching the parent how to work with their baby, little boy, little girl, to be ready to go into the classroom, and how they've changed the process of, you just don't show up the first day. You go to an orientation and the child gets to see exactly what is in store for them. And when you make children excited about learning, they're willing to come back into the home and not only play teacher with their siblings, but to help shape and mold those little minds that for young kids to say, hey, mommy, when is it my turn? Can I get the new book bag so I can be prepared to go to school? And yes, do we think that it needs to be universal pre-K? Yes. I mean, because look at technology now. You have young people that can, I'm old school, and sometimes I don't know what's going on. And my little 7-year-old granddaughter can come in and say, hey, grandmommy, this is what you're supposed to do. Using those things that excite children to learn is so important for them to be successful from K through 12, like Susan said. I do agree with that wholeheartedly. Some of the experiences that some children will not get in the home, they will get in that pre-K setting to prepare them for kindergarten.
You know, Keith, this is, you asked for specifics, and I'm going to just add to what Jackie's saying here, bragging on Lancaster. There is a very specific intervention that we started in South Carolina. It started as a pilot at South Carolina First Steps in 2004 or 5. And Lancaster is probably the star of the state, but yeah, all of our counties are involved in this program that she's mentioning. It's called Countdown to Kindergarten, and it is a bridge. It allows the kindergarten teachers themselves, who are able to do this in the summer, to make those home visits to the settings where their soon-to-be students grew up, and make those deep connections with parents. And so it happens over the full summer, and our interventionists, the teachers themselves, are bringing toys and books and really sitting down on the floor with the kids. And if in some ways, as you heard Jackie describe, maybe our parents themselves didn't have models of that type of parenting behavior in their own life before becoming parents, so they're getting this great opportunity to sit down on the floor and learn themselves from a trained professional, trained kindergarten teacher. So, I think if there's a thread so far this morning that's lighting up for me, it's this business of, we have to all work together, and in unity becomes a strong community. And if our focus can be on how are we staying united for the causes that matter most, you're hearing our position here, which is the children ought to be in the center of that equation.
Most definitely.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And yes, I agree. It's the children should be our total focus. Well, in addition to socialization and educational benefits to preschoolers, and based on your experience with First Steps, what role would the provision of nutritious meals in this period of time, from just generally good nutrition, play on children's development? I mean, can we actually go to the homes and help the parents?
My son works at Clinton Elementary, so I'm gonna go ahead and put Clinton out there. And Susan and Susan's son Miller and Avery grew up together. To see the differences in children that come to school, just my conversation with my son Avery, who teaches science, says that before he can get his class started, some of them come, they haven't been to sleep, so they haven't had a good night's rest. They're hungry because some of them may not have had anything nutritious since lunch the previous day. Some of them come in without having had their medication, because now we see in our society we're so dependent on medication, thinking that that's the way that we can control young people's behavior and make them attentive. So you have to get all of those things in order before you can sit down and actually start the lesson for the day. Nutrition is so, so very important, because if I don't eat, even I become the Snickers bar commercial. I'm grumpy. I'm not focused. I'm not able to comprehend what is being said to me. And just by my conversations with him, we do here in Lancaster County, we send a backpack of food home every Friday for our low-income Title I students at Brooklyn Springs, Clinton Elementary through First Steps, A.R. Rooker. I'm not quite sure if they do it at South, and even at the high school, to make sure that during the weekend, because from Friday to Monday is a very long time to not have a nutritious meal. Making sure that our young people are fed is going to be that's essential to the importance of them even starting to succeed, Keith. That is probably the nucleus in the cell. That if I'm hungry, I am going to be definitely unable to learn. Susan, what do you think?
Yeah, no, Jackie, I totally agree. And again, you're hearing Lancaster, so proud of our community for the way that we create these solutions. You know, the notion of school providing food is an American, something we can be proud of as Americans, the Title I system and SNAP and WIC programming as well. And yet, you know, sometimes what we see are families unable to give that information to the schools. Schools are in this community and across the state and really the country. They're opening their doors to make sure that kids have food so that they can learn. Jackie's exactly right. Without that very core element, a child, there's no energy in the child's body to be able to focus on learning. You know, I think the pandemic and when schools were shuttered reminded us we've got to be flexible. So to the issue of fresh, nutritious foods, once again, this is going to just sound like that retweet. You got to go to communities. So we've got churches playing roles. You've got organizations, social services organizations. You've got nonprofit organizations ready to in a non-threatening, non-judgmental way, make sure that families have food. So it takes creativity. It takes flexibility. More than anything, it takes tenacity and focus. Our schools do a great job. The kitchen staffs are there every morning. The breakfasts and lunches that are served to our students are top flight. And that is why kids can learn during the day. But as Jackie said, what about evenings and what about weekends? Well, that's where you've got to count on the provision through other community partners, churches, United Ways, and others. I think the elected leaders, and I certainly know partners here in South Carolina at DSS, they're always looking for creative ways to make certain that, for example, SNAP benefits are user-friendly. How do we take an EBT card and add SNAP benefits to that? So it's, again, not something that is really, it's just easy to use. You know, it's like a credit card, and you pull that out and you get your fresh food for your families. But it's, you know, I must say, it takes community. It takes public agencies who are focused constantly on the needs of people. It takes that flexibility, and it really takes dedication from our elected leaders. So, you know, to all of you that serve, Jackie, we couldn't be more delighted to have Jackie at the helm here in the city. We really need to have elected leaders who are not afraid to keep looking at what needs to change or be improved, but also to lift up really good examples that are working. And if there are some community examples that are working, why don't they become shared and replicated in other parts of the state and the region? So great question, Keith. And I think we can't take our eyes off the prize with nutrition being so fundamental.
Well, you kind of led me right into my next question. As hopefully representing Lancaster County after the election, which issues and programs could I champion in Columbia to benefit the preschoolers here in our county and our whole state?
Well, Keith, that funding for First Steps, for those agencies that work to address pre-K, making sure that funding is there. I mean, if we don't have the funding for those programs and those organizations to do what they do best, we're going to find ourselves right back where we were, where the focus of education will not be there anymore. We will see our dropout rates increase. We will see our workforce readiness for industries that are coming in to our county, to counties around South Carolina, not having those individuals work ready to bring about economic change that we're looking to see happen, not only in Lancaster County, but in surrounding communities within our state. So my focus would hope, and I pray that we continue to increase funding. Some of the things that I see and I read about, I often say to myself, we could put those monies toward education. We can put that money towards not only preschool, but high school. When we look at the amount of debt young people come out of college with, it is tremendous that you have to really put your life on hold in order to pay for the student loans that you've had to take out. So looking at that, making things more accessible that would benefit our community, the community that you represent, because like Susan said, if you look at Indian land, it kind of hurts us with the boom that Indian land, the post textile genre that we had before. Now that it really hinders us when we come to apply for grants, because that poverty level is not as low as it used to be now in our community.
Yeah, I just echo what Jackie's saying here, Keith. First Steps is a model brought by our own Governor Jim Hodges from Lancaster. I mean, we're just going to be all Lancaster here today.
Yes.
Elected in 1988 as the education governor. Remember, I have the school bus in my mind right now. And, it takes this constant focus on what can we do for kids. And he followed in short order some of the other leaders he was seeing in the 80s. After that, neuroscience research was released sort of writ large through national publications. States really jumped into, what do we do? Oh my gosh, what do we do? If you are saying to us that the neural connections which make children successful are formed before they come to kindergarten, what can we do? So, quickly, Governor Hodges back in 1999 followed Governor Hunt from North Carolina, whose leadership in establishing the North Carolina Partnership for Children, Smart Start, was really essentially so powerful. It was a collaborative design between state and local partners, all of the publicly funded partners and private individuals and again, faith organizations and nonprofits coming together county by county to assess the gaps and then to promote how do we fill those gaps through the assets that are present. It does take resources, and South Carolina First Steps, passed in 1999, was the third state following North Carolina and California to take that approach of, we got to do it at all levels, macro, micro, and everything in between, supporting families, strong parenting, like Jackie was describing. It's overwhelming to think of all the things you can and should be doing. So it does take resources, and it takes people, and it takes conviction. And we need our elected officials at all levels to pay attention to the needs of kids. So yes, we want to maintain that funding, strong and increased funding for First Steps. At the state level, as you may know, the state funds flow to all the counties, and then they're leveraged for more grants at the federal level and community level. So it's this braided funding and braided resources and tight community collaboration that make us successful. The other thing I'm going to add, because I really agree with Jackie, on the other end of the spectrum, when we don't think about preschoolers, when we think about young adults, I think we got to have some real attention there on the young adults coming out of a pandemic, what's affected them, and what sorts of things we need to put in place to help them be successful. The relief from student debt is so important, and really going deeper to mental health issues, in fact, and just courageous, sort of feeling confident that you can succeed, I think is really important for all of us to pay attention to at this time. South Carolina is piloting a national program called College Advising Corps, which places a recent college graduate in a place of service. It's an AmeriCorps program, sort of like Peace Corps. It puts and we fund this in partnership with the Duke Endowment and the school districts and National AmeriCorps and Furman University. We put a near peer kind of a advisor into the guidance departments of every high school in Chester and Lancaster. And their only job every day, all day long, is to help kids, freshman through senior, think about, what do you want to do after high school? We have a very low college going rate in this community, and the data tells us college makes a difference in what your economic mobility will be. We also have as we know, mill village in our history, and there's no mill to go to work in any longer. So students need additional supports to think about what is it they could do after high school. And then they really need help to connect to what are the resources if you want to go to college? What do you mean FAFSA? What is that? So, kudos to elected officials who now require that we teach and ask students to complete the FAFSA. But again, that's really tricky when you're talking about that's private information from families. So how do you reduce the anxieties that families feel about connecting with our government partners? Because we want families to succeed and we want those kids to succeed. So our leaders have got to have a really macro vision on public-private partnerships. And again, with that retweet of kids have to be in the center of the conversation constantly, and whatever it takes, let's innovate, let's get out of the box. Let's not be tied to old provisions if they're not working. Let's really be bold with the issues of our children in the center.
Thank you very much for that. On that, I was wondering if we have any questions from our audience. Alan?
We have no submitted questions at this time.
Okay. Well, ladies, would you like to go ahead and just summarize what you are the takeaway for us?
I think the takeaways for one, Keith, is that children first. The takeaways, another takeaway would be that we have, in a post-pandemic era, that we are going to have to address the issues of how do we get our young people back to where they need to be. This week, test scores were released. We have some work to do. We need to make sure that our elected officials understand that we need the funds in order to make up for 2 years of in-person education for our young people. We tend to focus on other aspects, but that is going to be so important because we're looking at individuals that are going to be taking care of us, that are going to be placed in roles of making decisions that are going to affect upcoming generations as they come through this world. How do we do that? How do we address the issues of our dropout rates? How do we address that? How do we make sure that education continues to be a focus of concern. And I think that has a lot to do oftentimes with our political climate. How can we work together to achieve this common goal?
Yeah, absolutely. Jackie's got it, Keith. I think the takeaway is focus on the kids and, really focus on standing united. And we've seen we've seen examples of divisiveness that doesn't work, that really draws attention to the wrong issues. We have got to rally together because we are all we have. And that next generation is counting on us. And so, we're always looking to bring people together that will focus on what are the most pressing needs of the community. And I think you're hearing it this morning. We believe it's strong education ecosystem. My goodness, the 2 years that we've had such a challenge with COVID, and that's not going away, by the way. Our schools have had to be so flexible, and those teachers and leaders at every school and at every school board are doing the best they can. And parents are really struggling because their lives have been upended too. So how do we really join forces, parents, school boards, teachers, to wrap around the common goal we share, which is success for our students? It really isn't about the scores always. We got to start with things that you've heard today and that you've spoken of, Keith. Starts with nutrition. It starts with attachment to strong community. So if we get back to basics, and what I mean by that is those things: food and love and strong experiences that bring out confidence in our children and our young people, so that they can become the mayor pro tem of their community. That's what we want to see. That's what we want to see, right? So thanks for having us, Keith. Jackie and I are always happy to be with you. And thanks for your hard work, all of you across the country, when you're focusing on the needs of education, health, and wellness. We're your biggest champions.
Thank you.
Working together works.
Yes.
Working together works. There you go.
Love that slogan. Love that slogan. Thank you very much, ladies. Really appreciate your contributions to our community. Look forward to working with you in the future. And so I'm going to hand it back over to Hal to wrap it up.
All right, Keith, thank you so much. What a great call. And I'm so impressed with Susan DeVenny from the Arras Foundation and, of course, Jackie Harris, Lancaster Councilmember. They obviously care so much about our kids. And, how do we get our electeds to care like that? And it's I don't have an answer. They're not, look, it's money, right? That's what everything boils down to. They're responding to moneyed interest more than they are to the needs of our kids. It's our job to change that dynamic. Thank you so much, Jackie Harris. Thank you so much, Susan DeVenny. Keith, great job hosting. Always great to see Lucero and my friends in the Palmetto State. If you want to support our work, ourrev.us/scmem is a great place to go. And we do, actually, I didn't tell you about our upcoming call. Tech problems continue. I think we call that user error. Jamie McLeod Skinner is going to be our guest this Monday night on our Revolution Monday night call, ourrev.us/Monday. She's a great progressive on the other side of the country running in Oregon for Congress. So hope you can join us and Jamie McLeod Skinner this Sunday. We're going to be done just a little bit early today. I don't think anyone's going to mind getting out and enjoying this early fall day across the country. We'll be talking more about education, health, and wellness. Thanks again. Quick chant. I say when we organize, you say we win. I'll just do it one time. When we organize,
we win.
We win.
Awesome, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a great, great day.
Thank you, Hal.
Thanks again,
Thank you,
everybody.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank